Reporting that to you in the House and the Senate, and I'll say, why are we protecting countries that don't protect us? And I've always felt that was a weakness of NATO. We were going to protect them, but I always said, when in need, they won't protect us. Now, this isn't need. Need would be one of the big boys, but I will say that we built the greatest military in the world, and we protect people. And if we need their mine boats, or if we need anything, any piece of apparatus that they may have because of a situation that they have, they should be jumping to help us, because we've helped them for years stay out of.
President Trump is acting like an international gangster, threatening to trample over the sovereignty of an ally, threatening the end of NATO altogether, and now threatening to hit our country and 7 European allies with outrageous, damaging tariffs unless he gets his hands on Greenland. This is an incredibly grave moment for the United Kingdom, Europe, and our world.
Guys, Donald Trump may have just threatened war against NATO countries, as more NATO countries, including Germany, have basically given the middle finger to Donald Trump, saying, this is your war in Iran. Don't expect us to get involved, especially after you spent the past 14 months or so tariffing us to death and basically disparaging our cultures, our countries, disrespecting us. And now you want our help? No, thank you. We're not doing it. So Donald Trump, apparently, according to multiple reports that have come out, said that NATO is about to have a very bad time. Now, where does that language come from in recent memory? Oh, yeah, that's right. He said the same thing right before he launched this war in Iran, saying that if Iran didn't capitulate to U.S. demands, Iran was going to have a very bad time. And now he's saying the same thing, that if NATO countries, many of which have basically told him no, like France, Spain, England, now Germany, and others, if they don't come and do what he wants and capitulates to his will as though he's king of the world, they are going to face a very bad time. So are we getting ready to go to war with NATO now? What do you think? Drop your comments down below.
Hello you all, welcome back. My name is Kola, and I'm not even gonna lie, this whole situation just keeps getting messier by the day. And so now Donald Trump is out here basically pressuring NATO to step in and help secure the Strait of Hormuz. And I'm just like, wait, wasn't he just saying the war is almost over? That is what I thought. And like seriously, just a few days ago, Trump was talking about how the war with Iran is almost over, and how he has basically won, and how it's wrapping up soon, and him saying everything is under control. And now suddenly NATO needs to get involved and send help. But before you dive in ahead, let's first watch how people are reacting to this, and then you're going to come back with a full commentary at the end of the video.
Did Donald Trump just threaten NATO? Kind of. In a new article and interview by the Financial Times, Donald Trump kind of made a jab at NATO, saying that you guys need to step up or there's going to be a problem. All of this circles around the Strait of Hormuz. As you may know, Iran has been attacking ships that go in and out and has essentially closed this entire strait, meaning that 1/5 of the world's oil is trapped. And so Trump in this interview said that countries that rely on that trade that comes out should step up and send their military to help keep the strait safe, saying, quote, it's only appropriate that people who are the beneficiaries of the strait will help to make sure that nothing bad happens there, which is something in line of what he said just the other day, in which he kind of called out certain countries, saying that they should send their navy there to keep it straight. But after that kind of request, no one stood up. Many in NATO feel that this is not their war. They didn't start it, they're not a part of it, and it's a part of the region that's not really in their realm. NATO's main concern is obviously what's happening in Europe, in which, well, yes, it's Russia invading Ukraine and making sure that Russia doesn't attack their own countries. And so they did not stand up. And so now we have a sort of threat from Donald Trump saying, quote, if there's no response, or if it's a negative response, I think it would be very bad for the future of NATO. Now, he doesn't really go into any detail whatsoever what that bad situation for NATO would look like. But NATO is already doing double duty here. We're seeing NATO aircraft and air defense systems shoot down ballistic missiles that are being sent towards Turkey. We also see that NATO already does recon, flying their sentries above to kind of peer down into what's going on. And as that's happening, we're seeing NATO step up to not only provide everything to Ukraine, but they're also protecting their own countries. And so Trump, in a separate conversation on Air Force One, said when it came to Ukraine and NATO, "We've always been there for NATO. We're helping them with Ukraine. We've got an ocean between us. It doesn't affect us, but we've helped them," which is definitely a very interesting take, because under Donald Trump, technically speaking, when it comes to humanitarian aid or military aid, Donald Trump has sent $0 to actually help. Instead, Ukraine relies on NATO countries to purchase all the weapons from the United States, which means that the United States is actually becoming very handsomely rich off of Russia's war in Ukraine. And so I think this silence from NATO countries speaks volumes, essentially reminding Donald Trump, look, you wanted nothing to do with Ukraine, so we're doing it all. When it comes to the war you started with Iran and Israel, I think it's time that you guys handle that. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below.
Something very unusual is happening right now. Yesterday, Trump warned NATO could face a very bad future if allies refuse to help the US in the Middle East, specifically in securing shipping routes through the Strait of Hormuz, right? In other words, if allies don't send ships and support the operation, the future of NATO could be in danger, right? And what happened immediately after that? Reports are now emerging that Germany, Japan, Australia are refusing requests to send ships in the region. That's not just a diplomatic disagreement. That's a fracture inside a US alliance system. Here's the reality everyone seems to be avoiding. Allies usually hesitate to join wars when they believe three things are unclear: the objective of the conflict, the risk of escalation, and whether the leadership is predictable. Right now, many countries are worried that a conflict with Iran could spiral into a regional war that disrupts oil supplies for years. And the Strait of Hormuz is one of the most critical shipping lanes on Earth. I've talked about it many times here. If that route closes, everyone feels it. Okay, security alliances, oil markets, everyone will be pulled into this crisis. So what you're seeing isn't just countries saying no to Trump. You're seeing something much bigger. Allies quietly testing how far the United States will go and whether they want to go with it. And when allies start hesitating like this, it usually means they think the situation could get much, much worse and they do not want to be a part of it.
All of the NATO allies agreed with us, but they don't want to, despite the fact that we help them so much. We have thousands of soldiers in different countries all over the world, and they don't want to help us, which is amazing. I mean, amazing. And I didn't do a full court press because I think if I did, they probably would be. But we don't need help. That war has been long prosecuted, as far as I'm concerned, almost from day one. We knocked out many of these things. We knocked out the Navy essentially in a couple of days. But I was surprised to see that NATO, while they agree that it was a very important thing to do, they agree fully. Nobody said, oh, you shouldn't do it. I think NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there.
Oh, look, Trump is threatening somebody else. Is that all this guy does? He just threaten people. He's threatening the media. They're going to take away their licenses unless they become like propaganda machines for the U.S. government. And so Trump threatens NATO allies if they do not help to secure the Strait of Hormuz. Didn't he just say a week ago that he put True Social posts out about the UK and thanks, but we don't need your ships? Did he just? That was like a week ago. A week ago, he True Social post about the UK and you're late to the war. We've already won the war. The war's over. We don't need your ships. Now I need your ships. What a complete fuck up this guy is. Oh my God. Is it unbelievable? It's unbelievable. Yeah, this is a catastrophe, people. This isn't just oil and natural gas. This is fertilizer. We're talking food. We're talking. This is really bad news because they can't defend it. They can't defend it, and Iran's got the upper hand, and they never calculated it. They never calculated anything. Did Trump go to his allies? Did Trump go to NATO? Did Trump go to the United Nations and say he was going to do all this before he did it? Did he consult anybody? No, he didn't. And now things are fucked. And you got his cabinet people going on the weekend on the news, Sunday morning news shows, lying their asses off about how bad it's going to get. It's going to get really bad. Have the day you deserve.
So Donald Trump is now threatening European countries, saying if EU countries don't send some ships to the Strait of Hormuz and help us open that thing up, there's going to be consequences like you won't believe, and the U.S. is going to leave NATO. And the EU countries said, well, no, we good. And that's the appropriate response. And I think the EU countries understand that they are going to go into economic crisis, because an energy crisis, because of the rise of oil. But they also know that joining in with this American onslaught that was for no reason is going to make things worse for them personally. So I think it's the right choice for the EU or the European countries to refuse to send ships to the Strait of Hormuz at Donald Trump's behest. But if Donald Trump does pull out of NATO over this, it's kind of weird because you chose to attack Iran and everyone told you not to. No American president has done this before for a reason. Everyone else understood Iran in the last 30 years is prepared for us now. There is no reason to attack them. They hadn't attacked us. None of their missiles would have reached us. And the fact that they were this ready to like pow on all of our military bases in the Middle East should kind of send the sign that they could have done this a while ago, but they didn't. They didn't do any of this until they were provoked, until they were attacked, because they knew it was only a matter of time before the United States was going to come for them. And again, this was for no reason. There was no credible threat. There is no nuclear program because apparently Iran's been almost at nuclear grade uranium for the last 27 years. They've been 2 weeks away for the last 27 years. So it's a really problematic thing that we're dealing with. And I'm glad the EU countries are for now standing their ground. I just hope it stands the test of time, because if they get involved, this will literally become World War III. And I think all the European countries understand that this will become World War III, especially with China openly stating we're giving weapons to Iran because we as a sovereign nation have the right to give another sovereign nation weapons, and y'all can't tell us no. So if China gets involved, now it really is World War III. You know, 3 continents now going at it. So this was the right choice. You know, let the Americans dig out their own selves. It's just sad that I have to be a part of this mess. Like, why do I have to pay more for gas? I got an SUV. But here we are. Y'all have a good night.
I can't believe that it took over 5 years of Donald Trump being president of the United States for MAGA to figure out that foreign policy is actually pretty complicated, and you can't just be a bully and expect to win. Right now, Donald Trump is basically trying to start World War III, but it's not going to work. He's trying to beg NATO for help to open the Strait of Hormuz. Trump and Bibi decided to start a war without coordinating with any of our allies and letting them know what kind of chaos they were going to unleash on the entire world and the global economy. And now he's trying to play the game of, I broke it, so you need to buy it. And the same guy who's been threatening a NATO ally, Denmark, saying that he's going to take Greenland by force, using the military against our NATO ally. Now he's saying, if you don't join us in this war that I just randomly started, it's going to spell very bad things for NATO, because we've always been there. Meanwhile, NATO has been very focused on liberating Ukraine from Russia. The entire reason that NATO exists is to stop the Russian Empire from becoming a thing again. So Donald Trump is lifting sanctions on Iran's ally, Russia, so that they can sell their oil, which they can then in turn use that money to continue the war in Ukraine, this war of expansion. The United States has been spending over $1 billion a day on making this war happen. Meanwhile, because of all of the other illegal incursions and illegal attacks that Donald Trump has been engaging in Latin America and around the world, the ops tempo has basically made a bunch of our Navy ships inoperable. It's been a decade that Trump's fans have been saying that Donald Trump is making us respected on the world stage again. And only now are they starting to realize that we can't go it alone. And that Trump befriending our adversaries, authoritarians around the world, that might be good for Trump and the Kushner families so that they can personally enrich themselves. It's not good for any of the rest of us. So because Trump and Hegseth have to learn things the dumbest and hardest way possible, the rest of us are going to be dealing with grocery prices and energy prices that continue to rise. Just last week, we had 2 domestic attacks that were inspired by the war that Donald Trump started overseas. And our allies overseas have realized they can't rely on us, so they're building alternative plans. They're planning for a world in which the United States can't be trusted, and not only are we not respected, we are becoming more and more irrelevant.
Nearly a year ago, we were covering the NATO summit, and at that time, NATO countries were falling over themselves to please Donald Trump. Mark Rutte was pretty much lecturing NATO about how they needed to do more. This was the summit famously where he ended up calling Trump daddy.
Yeah.
You know, daddy, of course, had to swear at those naughty countries. And this was just after Trump had struck Iran for the first time and declared that he had obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities. I think that was 6 months into the Trump second term, where Europe was saying, well, he has got a point. You know, we haven't spent as much as we should. We can't be dependent on America for all our defence forevermore. You know, all of NATO was coming together, and well done, Donald Trump, for showing us the path. 6 months later, Donald Trump is talking about invading Greenland at Davos. They don't really know what to make of that. He's already kidnapped the president of Venezuela and his wife. They don't really know what to make of that. He clearly hasn't ended the Ukraine war, which he promised to do on day one. They don't really know what to do with that. And here we are in March with a full-scale war in the Middle East that he has started. And I think this is the point at which Europe's saying, hang on, we've kind of played the game. You know, we've gone towards his demands. We've pushed our own defence spending. We've actually managed to find accommodations to what we thought he was asking for. But fucking hell, where does this end, right? Because if he's still going to talk about invading Denmark, if he's still going to go in and start wars, if he's still going to go in and kidnap heads of state, what is the role of NATO in any of that? Why, as you say, why should a defence organisation, which is meant to be keeping the peace, which is meant to be stopping invaders like Putin or stopping invaders like Xi Jinping if he tries to do the same in Taiwan, why do we want to be part of a force which is bellicose, which is starting wars? And so I do think this is a kind of turning point for Europe. Starmer's superpower at the moment is being able to be boring. Quite boring, you know, not strident, not loud, not shouty, all the things that you normally think sort of stand against Starmer, which is like, oh, come on, show us your personality or show us your drive or show us your sort of the glint in your eye. Everyone's going, oh, yeah, that's fine.
I think that's absolutely right. And I think that the measured tone of not getting into a pissing competition, frankly, with Donald Trump, where he kind of lets off a rhetorical hand grenade and you feel you've got to fire off a rhetorical missile in return. Keir Starmer's not doing that.
President Trump is acting like an international gangster, threatening to trample over the sovereignty of an ally, threatening the end of NATO altogether, and now threatening to hit our country and 7 European allies with outrageous, damaging tariffs unless he gets his hands on Greenland. This is an incredibly grave moment for the United Kingdom, Europe and our world. Without provocation or justification, the President of the United States is attacking our economy, our livelihoods, and our national security. Trump has put British businesses and jobs on the front line in his unprovoked aggression. The only people cheering him on are Vladimir Putin and Xi Jinping. Only a few months ago, Trump hailed the special relationship at Windsor Castle. Now, thanks to his actions, it is nearly in tatters. So how do we stop Trump's damaging trade war? For a year now, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Prime Minister has tried a policy of appeasing Trump, flattering him, fawning over him, refusing to stand up to him, because, he argued, otherwise Trump would hit us with damaging tariffs. Well, the Prime Minister has tested his approach to destruction. It has failed. It is time for the government to change course. We have to finally be clear-eyed about the sort of man Trump is and treat him accordingly. He is a bully. He thinks he can grab whatever he wants using force if necessary. And he is corrupt. The most corrupt president the United States has ever seen. So there are only two ways of getting him to back down: bribing him with a new jet perhaps, or a few billion in his crypto account, or standing up to him like we would with any other bully, standing together with our European allies to make him back down. That's the choice. Which one, Foreign Secretary?
That's not even adding up, right? And for those who don't know, the Strait of Hormuz is not just some random place. It's literally one of the most important oil routes in the world. And if that area gets unstable, gas prices do rise and everywhere just shoots up. So this is not small stuff. But here's where it gets even more interesting. A lot of European countries are not trying to get involved with this war at all. We're talking about countries like France, Germany, Italy, Spain. They're basically saying this isn't our war to fight. And honestly, that's causing a lot of tension inside NATO right now, because NATO is supposed to be about collective defense, right? But this situation, it's not like a direct attack on all members. So some countries are like, why should we jump into something the US started? So they should deal with this themselves. But people online are going crazy over this. Some Americans are actually frustrated. They're saying, wait, so first you said you've won and the war is ending, and now you need backup. That doesn't make sense. Others are worried this could turn into something bigger. Now Trump is involving everyone, like a full global conflict. If more countries get dragged in, then you've got another group saying NATO should stay out of it completely. Because the moment Europe steps in, it stops being a US-Iran issue and becomes something way bigger. And everyone is now involved. And I've also seen people pointing out how this might affect regular people more than anything, and not just the government. This affects fuel prices. It affects costs of living. It also affects travel and everything, just literally everything. And for me personally, it just feels like the messaging is all over the place, right? You can say we've basically won, and then in the next breath, we need NATO to secure a critical global oil route. I thought US was able to deal with this, and that just makes people lose confidence with Donald Trump. That's where things are right now. And honestly, it feels like we're still far from this war being over. Like we're being told by Trump. And what do you think, guys? Do you think NATO should step in, or are those European countries right to stay out of it? They should really stay out of it. That's my thought. And drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me how you feel about this one, because this one, it's not simple. Finally, credit goes to the respective owners of the clips and content used in my video. Thoughts and perspective made today's work possible. And if you loved today's video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe for future updates. See you in the next one.